Okay, let's be honest about Black Lives Matter and systemic racism. What we're doing is we're chasing ghosts. There's no resolution. All the race baiters point to ghosts that we can't fix. You know, when you have a problem, you have to be able to identify the problem. Otherwise, there's no solution. No one can point to regulations, laws, anything that's holding people back. So we use this term systemic racism. What is it? Somebody looks at you wrong, somebody calls you a name, um, you feel that somebody didn't treat you the way you wanted to be treated. Maybe you got turned down for something and you think that the only reason was because of your skin color, which really is the minority of cases. If someone can prove that they're competent and be successful and help a business or an agency, they generally get hired. Business people aren't stupid. They want to make more money. They want a better operation. It's an easy claim to say, you got fired because of racism, or you felt like an outcast because of racism. But, what you're asking people to do, because there are no legal barriers, there are no regulatory barriers, you're asking people to conform to a group think and pretend to be nice. And, nobody can come up with a calculation for reparations. We're talking multi-generational distancing from the actual event. My ancestors, were slaves under the Ottoman Empire. And farther back, slavery was the means of production worldwide. Virtually every society had slaves. It was only the Western societies that got rid of it, started putting prohibitions in place, and eventually eradicated it around most of the world. We recognized in the 60s that the morality of the way we were treating minorities was actually disgusting. And every effort's been made since then to knock down barriers. So, as far as we know, those barriers have been removed. And we keep asking, how do we bring racial harmony? And as long as there's a ghost, there is no racial harmony. We're trying to appease the feelings of everybody. And there's no way that you're going to have mass populations. I mean, races don't even like everyone within their own race. Families don't like everyone within their own families. And you're asking a whole society to accept people just because you say if you don't, you'll pay a price for it. Now, if you had specifics, if you said, okay, items 1, 2, 3, and we'll have racial harmony. But we're in a situation where it's like a husband who cheats on his wife. It's a terrible thing. And they try and reconcile and make the marriage work. Now, he's done everything to prove that he's honest and trustworthy and won't do it again. And she keeps throwing it up in his face every time there's an issue. But you remember you cheated on me? There's no forgiveness. There's no point unless she absolutely says, I will not bring it up, we will move forward, and we will try and live a new life together. There's no resolution. That's the problem we have right now with racism. The scars of the past are horrific. Everyone knows that. But we've been trying now, since the abolishment of slavery, to rectify and bring every marginal person into society on an equal footing. And sure, there are still racists. Nobody's going to say that there aren't. Are there government organizations like the Dixiecrats, that instituted Jim Crow? Are they still around? Do they have great political power? No. Every system that's investigated for so-called systemic racism, they do audits. They generally find nothing. They found in banking rejections of mortgages and loans that black-run banks that had basically the same levels of rejection. And then you have certain statistics that black women, because they're earning more today, have a higher rate of acceptance on loans and mortgages. Depending on what statistic you want to pick, you can paint whatever picture you want. But there has to come a point where we say there has to be a new beginning. You can't just keep throwing all these things in the face and saying, fix it. We think, unless someone can point out otherwise, that we've knocked down all the barriers as far as what's legal. Okay? We've tried to end discrimination of housing. We've put in employment laws. We've knocked down every rule and regulation that's been pointed out. We've started affirmative action, thinking that, okay, maybe this will uplift some, as the GI Bill did. But every time we say, okay, we're living in a tolerant society, everyone's pretty much putting up with each other, which is the fundamental basis of a civil society. It's not to be nice. Otherwise, you can never disagree. You can never challenge anybody. You can never have a debate. The whole point of a society is to civilly tolerate each other and their differences. If you can't be an individual, you're nothing. And these groups are breaking up into tribalism. You have African Americans. You have Indian Americans and Chinese Americans and hyphenated Americans. Blacks have been in the country for 400 years, and they still don't just acknowledge themselves as American, even though they're part of the fabric, the same as everyone else who's been here for 400 years. I mean, with every hyphenated person out there, where do your loyalties lie? It's fine to say, I'm an American, and I come from such and such a country, originally, but I'm an American. I'm the second generation born. My kids are the third. They're not hyphenated. My parents immigrated, but they're naturalized. They're citizens. There is no connection to an old country or a past or whatever. They're patriots. They have no association with any other culture or... And why should they? When will we have a culture? As long as we keep polluting it with others. And I say the word pollute because, we were the melting pot where everyone blended into one. But now we're saying, have your culture that you left, that you didn't want to be a part of, and romanticize it over here. We can't grow as a one as long as our fabric is made out of individual threads. So I ask the people that are protesting and everything, what is it you want? Give us a list of demands and say, if these things are met, we will have a kumbaya moment and we will walk hand in hand, and we'll never throw it up in your face again, and we won't think you're an evil person because of your color. And we'll have harmony and we can move forward. Give us that list and see if we can do it. Because this is insanity. This just tears everyone apart. This brings racism to the fore. When you've got people in your own community telling you that what you're doing is nonsense and destructive and has another agenda, you're led by Marxists in your movement. I mean, there's, people talking about, unconscious bias and implicit racism. As long as a society with so many diverse nationalities living in it, and people of color living civilly. I mean, if you look around the world, in Africa, blacks are fighting Africans, other blacks in the Middle East. People of the same color are fighting each other. If you look in, places like the Soviet Union, the old Soviet Union, when it broke up, people of the same color fight. I mean, we find any difference to fight, whether it's religious, political, territorial. The thing, in Rwanda, the slaughter was over her one color being slightly lighter than another color. We're primates. We're going to look for reasons to disagree and fight. The unique thing in our society is the fact that we have the ability to discuss it. We have the rule of law. We allow people in courts and in government to sort these issues out, and we as a people talk about them and vote in representatives who meet our ideals. But when you have 330 million people who are considered individuals, and each one has an opinion, and each one is given a voice, that's like herding squirrels. Not everyone's going to agree. So this idea that just by removing statues and burning buildings and looting, you're going to get to a point where we're all going to sit around the campfire and roast a marshmallow. There's always going to be those people who keep throwing it up in the face. The Al Sharpton and his class of race baiter, they find bandages racist. The color of bandages. I mean, have we really gotten to that level when we're not killing each other and beating each other up in roving gangs because of someone's skin color? The days of the Klan are done. Go on the internet and look at what the remnant of the Klan is. A bunch of half-toothed hillbillies who have nothing going on in life, and all they have is hate. Because half of them not only didn't read a book, they can't read a book. And I mean, we can't operate with what the fringes of society do. We have to look at what the mainstream of society does. And the mainstream society gets along. I mean, if we're ever going to pull out of this thing, there has to be a point where we say, okay, we either stop recognizing slavery and Jim Crow as an excuse and saying, listen, we've done all we can do. There's nothing more. It's the end of the line. You either give us a list or shut up. And just blend into normal society, get rid of the Black Caucus, get rid of the NAACP, get rid of it all, and just say, you're on your own, we're cutting the boat loose. Or you give us a list. And that list contains all the elements that says, at this point, we're good. We're not going to hold you accountable anymore for any of that stuff. Because you know what? I don't see anybody leaving. I don't see these people so disgusted with the United States as they say, you know what? I'm going over here because I'm going to be treated better and my opportunities are better. Now, 45 million people apply and are in a backlog to get into the country. This horrible, racist, can't get ahead, oppressive country. Everyone in the world wants to come. But the people here are dissatisfied, but they don't want to go. I wonder why that is. They can't find their utopian dream somewhere else. So, my words are just this, to be honest. Give us a list or be quiet. Take care.